doing a little video about how I use skills of my chosen specialism of game design. So this is a document I made for my game design class for a game concept that I've pitched to my tutor for game design work. So I'm going to just quickly zoom in a little bit to make sure you can get a bit of a clearer view on the recording. There you go. Forgot to zoom in on Chrome, right. So, man, I'm so tired. I apologize if it takes me a while to come up with certain things. Still got certain aspects of the game design. So, one of the things that I learned while doing research to become a better game designer was that you need good, when you're designing a game, right, you can take concepts from other games, but you don't want to make them the same game, basically. Because you make the same game, not only is that plagiarism, but it's boring. No one wants to play games they've probably already played. But you could take concepts that people very much enjoy, and I showed that in this task using my primary and secondary research. Concepts that people enjoy about a game, and you can incorporate that into your game quite seamlessly if done right. So that'll be stuff like, say, in this case, you're doing a story-focused RPG with lots of player choice and such. You don't necessarily want that, and say you had that game, right, and that's what you're designing, but you wanted to add like co-op. Well, co-op can be quite unimmersive for a player if the whole game is not at least tailored a little bit around it. So when I was doing my market research, and I learnt this through kind of doing research into the specialism, if you don't incorporate these mechanics properly, it can be quite jarring when a player plays it. Trying to think of an example of a game that's done it really poorly. I had a few when I actually kind of thought about this and incorporated it into this document, but I think now. Even in, I did have a few. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. If you incorporate like a mechanic like that, just kind of like it's kind of the opposite. Like can kind of interfere with certain other aspects of your game. It can make those aspects of your game like worse, or like just kind of null and void if they were like overall good things for the game. So to prevent that, you can either change certain parts. It's like a pillar, right? So say like you had 5 pillars. You had 5 pillars, right? And those things holding up those pillars can be certain design choices that you've made that will congregate to make something that's good. And say you want to add another concept that people really enjoy. But if you add that concept, it's gonna bring in a bulldozer, right? That bulldozer's gonna run through and shake all the pillars. And if you don't strengthen up the pillars with mechanics that fit around the fact, if you don't adapt those pillars so they can take the bulldozer coming past, all the pillars are going to fall down. So to keep the pillars up, we add things like, if you're playing co-op, you don't just address you as one person, or it's like you're playing a story together. The concept to make it feel like you're playing a story together rather than you're just playing a story by yourself, and certain other aspects of the game like combat, you can have a friend help you. That's pointless, right? It kind of defeats. You can have a good story in a co-op game, but you need to take advantage of the fact that it's co-op to kind of strengthen that fact. What else can I talk about? With my music, right? Generally, you just want music that either fits like the scene you're trying to, like the atmosphere you're trying to make. So if it's like a cold, harsh desert, then you kind of want music that reflects the deadness of a desert. You know what I mean? Like You don't want to walk into like just a random desert and have massive action-packed music, right? And I've learned this when playing games myself mostly. Um, so if you walk into like an action-packed desert, well, not an action-packed desert. You walk into a desert, it's completely dead. You start hearing just Dragon Force in the background. You're like, this makes no sense, and it doesn't. You want to kind of just contextualize what's going on. So, say in this piece of absolutely amazing concept art, um, you're climbing up towards this toll booth here, right? And it says in this text that the toll booth is actually filled with rebels. The music you'd want to kind of make it so the closer you creep, maybe the more the tension grows in the music. So it's like in Jaws, right, where it's like dun 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 dun. And as soon as you get closer, or as the shark gets closer and closer, it's like dun 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 dun. It gets faster and faster. You want that type of thing. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like just one note over and over again, right? But it can be pretty much anything that just kind of fix the contextualize. And say like you're trying to also, it goes with any kind of atmosphere, right? So you just want to set that intensity, you know what I mean? And if you go for alacrity and speed, you want a song that's fast. And I mentioned that here, like high BPM, EDM, or like speedcore or something in boss fights. Because in the boss fights, you're gonna have to like it's going to be mostly designed around like things like skill and having good reflexes, that type of thing, rather than it being more of a tactical type of game. And if it was like more of a tactical type of thing, obviously you wouldn't want extraordinarily fast music, because not only is that distracting, if you're trying to think, it just kind of takes you out the moment, you know what I mean? You want to be in the moment. You want something that you want music to further invest the player in what they're thinking about, rather than take them away. Also, something else I learned while I don't have any kind of like document to really talk about this with, but something else I learned while researching like the things like the day in the life of a game designer, right, is stuff like how they have to communicate with other members of staff and other sections of the company, right? Because at the end of the day, a game designer is kind of like a manager, like and it's a lot about communicating problems, well, not problems, communicating your vision, you know what I mean, with other members of staff, about kind of obstructing what they kind of want out of it. So, say if you're a game designer, right, there's a YouTube video that explains this properly, but obviously you want me to articulate it so you understand that I have that knowledge. Sorry. So, say I came up with the idea that I want like Argonians or something, just a random name. I don't know. I want these Argonians in our game story to be big blue and have massive rhino horns and big red eyes and super scary and intimidating. Where someone else had maybe read over the script and thought, well, the Argonians are more of a peaceful race. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily intimidating, or maybe they're a bit less. They maybe only have intimidating undertones or whatever. Well, you need to kind of either explain to them why you believe a certain thing, or just kind of get the best of both worlds, you know what I mean? Or maybe even change some of your game design philosophy over what people want, because at the end of the day, if someone else feels like a character, or just communicate really how that character is supposed to be represented within the game world and the story, without, and hopefully using kind of your charisma and your good communication skills to not come off as like petty, you know what I mean, or narcissistic, trying to dodge that type of thing. You just generally want to just communicate with other members of staff of what kind of things you want out of the game, what they should design, what they should make. Because making games is a very all around a very creative industry, right? Like if you go to an artist and say, I want this specifically in this way, like every single part of it, right? well then they're not going to enjoy making that. You want to leave it at least relatively open-ended, while still setting the prerequisites so it makes sense within the game world, right? So if they add like a little detail, right, like they see X character as more as like a poker player or something. Well, they see poker is a good way to demonstrate like their logical skills or whatever, and that fits within the story. Okay, that's fine. No one's against that. But it's stuff like when they do things like that and you get mad at them. That's a problem. Because again, you're not the only guy with vision, right? Like there's millions of ideas guys out there. It's about your management skills and how you can come up with more realistic ideas and how you understand what the higher ups want really and what they want you to make and that type of thing. Don't think of anything else. Also, being a games designer does require you to actually have some pretty decent programming knowledge, just so you can like kind of understand what you're asking of the developers and how to come up with like realistic deadlines, etc. I've actually got that up in the background. I've been doing a little bit of C#. Don't know if this really counts towards anything, but that's kind of how I've been developing a little bit of my skills. I also did make some scripts within Unity when I made my game for Inga, but these are just some stuff that I've been kind of learning. It's just a little console application, nothing special. All it does at the moment is I'll quickly just kill the program. All it does is, print dank memes with a new line. And also I set up a bunch of variables just so I can get used to using variables. But it is definitely important that as well. Same with going like artists and sound designers. So you got like a year to come out of a game, right? You don't want to ask them to like make some of the most in-depth or like detailed pieces of animation or models going, because you simply don't have time. But if you tell them to do that and they don't do that, or you manage it and you just being able to understand what you're asking them to do will make it a lot easier to manage, basically. You'll be able to put yourself in their shoes a bit better. Like, what if I was making this? If you're making this, and he told you to do this within this time frame, you wouldn't have enough time. Where someone who doesn't have that experience, they'll be told, they would think, oh, it's plenty of time, you know what I mean? That's because they don't have any of that experience. It also, I'd imagine being good at programming would, well, you'd have to be good at programming, you have to have programming knowledge, you need to like understand why programming certain aspects of asking someone to develop something could take a certain period of time. But I imagine it would also be good for another thing you need as a game designer, which is good problem solving skills. For the aforementioned things like you get a model back and it's not what you want. How can you adapt that model to make it what you want? You know what I mean? And how will you deal with that afterwards? All very important things. Yeah, that's about it though. It's about all the stuff I've learned about my specialism in this nice little short film. Bye.